I haven't worked with you in far too long, and I know a good amount about you, but not enough. And I'm really excited to have this conversation with you, just so everyone else can get to know you too, and we can just have that conversation. So, I guess to start it off, I'll go with one of the big ones. What was your aha moment that directed you to want to do veterinary medicine?
To be honest, I don't know that I had like an aha moment for the entirety of the like medical field.
Yeah.
But like when I was in when I was a kid, I always wanted to be in the veterinary field. But then my aha moment for going towards nursing rather than like a doctorate
Hmm.
um, was in the middle of my pre-vet program at Penn State. Just kind of at my wits end with just like all the studies and everything, and then like while I was in that, I was also working in practice, and seeing how much actual hands-on and actual medical care that the doctors do versus what the nurses do. Um, and it was just kind of my, as you said, an aha moment. Is like I didn't know any better when I first started. Um, so that's why I was going for my doctorate. And then I was just like, you know what? The nurses do most of the medical care. They're the ones that go to the doctors and say, hey, this is happening. We need to do something about it. This patient's feeling this or acting this way. Something's got to change. Um, and then the doctors kind of collaborate with the nurses and figure out what's best. So I I guess that was my aha moment to figure out
Yeah.
that that's why I wanted to do what I'm doing.
Awesome. Like you really want to have that personal touch, that impact with your patients and really get in the medicine of it. So that kind of leads me to my next question. Do you have a favorite part of vet med? Do you like ER, critical care, anesthesia? I know you love anesthesia, right?
Yeah, so I feel like I have two parts to that,
Okay.
and that just kind of switched um, from my time at Metro, where I met you. So before that, it was 100% anesthesia all day, every
Right.
day. Like that was my heart and soul. Um, and then when I kind of opened up my horizons and everything, and went to Metro and started as an emergency nurse there, I just kind of fell in love with the fast pacedness, the never knowing what's going to walk through that door. If it's going to be just a cute little puppy that potentially has a little bit of kennel cough, or if it is that dog that was hit by a car and is in cardiac arrest, and we need to do CPR and all these things, and just like jump into it. So I would say I started out with anesthesia being my end all and my favorite, because of the fact that like you're in control in those situations. You're Everything that's happening is because of you, and
Yeah.
you have the knowledge and the capability to be able to change it for either the better or for the worse if you're not paying attention.
Right. Like that
um,
steady state of emergency is what you're dealing with there. Yeah.
right, exactly. So I have two realms of my favorite. It's going to be that anesthesia for always. It's always going to have my heart. But emergency kind of started taking a little
It
spot in
gets in
my
there,
heart.
doesn't it? It gets in
Yeah,
there. You can't get away
yeah,
from it. Oh, that's awesome. And that's kind of, you already answered that question. Like, and why? You answered the why. That's
right.
fantastic. So I know you did, and you said you mentioned anesthesia before we met at Metropolitan and did
Yep.
emergency together. Tell me more. Tell everybody more about your journey to, where you started and now where you're at. I want to hear it.
It's a little long, but I'll try to
That's
sum it up.
okay. Is it
So
a straight route or did you kind of do this?
no, I would say that it was for the majority a straight route once I um made my choice.
That's awesome.
And so in the beginning, like way back when I first started, it was extremely difficult for me to get my foot in the door. And I'm sure
Why
that
is
is,
that? Expand on that.
to be honest, it's probably the same for anybody that is trying to get into it in any aspect in the beginning, unless they know someone
Okay.
in the veterinary field. But I didn't know anyone, and I didn't have any experience. I didn't have any knowledge. I was a 17-year-old kid that was just graduating high school and looking for a college and a job. Um, I was working at the YMCA as a counselor with kids, and so that was not good enough in the eyes of like the veterinary field when I was trying. So my way of getting in the door was just volunteering my time. And I would go in and I would watch surgeries. I would watch what the doctors are doing, kind of like shadow and stuff. It was at YMCA Animal Hospitals where I started volunteering or shadowing, whatever you want to call it. And then it was actually one of the funniest ways to get a job. Uh, I was in the surgery suite with one of the doctors, and they were amputating a leg, and they cut the femoral artery, and like there was literally blood just spurting at him. And I think somebody walked in and mentioned that like the kennel technician was retiring, and then as he's tying off that artery, um, he asked me if I wanted a job, and I was
Nice.
like, "Yeah,
All
sure."
right. Well, if you get arterial spray on you, I guess you can handle cleaning a kennel.
Right, exactly. I think it was just the fact that I didn't pass out was just kind of
Yeah.
like, you know what? He's not going to do too bad in this situation.
Awesome.
So that's where it started. Kennel technician, cleaning up after the dogs, walking them, all sorts of things like that. And then I just kind of moved up as I could. Um, so then it became a thing of like whenever there was an opportunity to be able to get out on the floor, restrain, that kind of stuff, I picked up on the restraining techniques, which a lot of people don't realize that is a huge part of veterinary medicine. And you can never discredit an assistant because of the fact that they are restraining that animal, making sure that they're safe and the other person is safe, be it the doctor or the nurse. Um,
Exactly.
but then after that, they allowed me to kind of start training as a veterinary technician, and then that's where I was in the middle of my pre-vet program at Penn State,
Right.
where I ended up deciding that I wanted to go the nursing route. And when I made that choice, I came back to my hometown and then was picking up more hours at YMSing. And my lead technician there graduated from Harcum a little whiles back, and that's kind of where I saw my opportunity to go to Harcum and graduated from Harcum, went to Penn Vet for my practicum and everything, made a lot of connections through that. So it was one of the best choices I ever made was choosing Harcum to be able to be affiliated with Penn Vet. And then after that, came back to Douglasville because during my time at Harcum, they partnered with Harcum and I applied for the scholarship through that because as long as you worked there, you were allowed to apply and things like that. Um, that's how I ended up at Douglasville, just as a regular veterinary nurse. And then I graduated, and then I think it was maybe like 6 months after that, I became the lead nurse at Douglasville. Um, and then shortly after that, 2 years later, which is now, 2.5 years later, which is now, I am training to become the practice manager.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
That is kennel tech all the way up to running the practice.
right.
That
It's
is
it's a lot.
fantastic.
It's a lot. I'll
Oh,
give you that. I'll tell you what. It's not easy.
no. Oh my gosh. I haven't sat in that managerial chair, and I give anyone credit who does. It's definitely, it takes a special person. I'm not that person. So, as you were going through this process, did you have any people that stood out for you as a mentor, or on the other side of that, were you someone's mentor and had that really great mentee that you worked with?
um, Mentor 100%. One person that stands out is the lead nurse that was in my position before I was at Douglasville. Her name is Tiffany Long, and she showed me the ropes when it came to anesthesia in an advanced setting. I knew like the basics of sedation and like the pulse ox, that kind of stuff. I knew what I knew from learning things at Harcum, but she really kind of like instilled in me the whys and the hows of everything and the kind of the calmness that needs to be taken in those situations rather than the chaos, being chaotic in the chaos. And then mentoree, I guess, or mentee. I don't know that actually I have one yet, but I'm sure there's somebody that probably like looks up
Oh
to me.
yeah, I
Work.
would. Yeah,
Uh,
because you like to teach, right? That's part of
yeah,
it. Because
yeah,
you love
100%.
learning.
Yeah,
Absolutely. So I think you're like still, new, young in your career. You've got time. I mean, there's going to
yeah.
be tons of people. I know, having worked with you myself, and then seeing people, that ripple effect is absolutely happening all around you. So keep all that good stuff going. I love it. I love it. So, cat or dog person?
Cat or dog?
Mm-hmm.
It depends on the moment. When my
Oh,
dogs
good
are,
answer. Especially if that cat's trying to kill you.
yeah, exactly. So if my dogs are quiet, then I'm a
Hmm.
dog person. If they're running around and their toes are click clacking on the floor and they're barking and stuff, maybe I'm gonna go with a cat. But then there's always, like you said, that cat that is trying to maul you.
Yeah.
But long story short, short answer is dog.
Dog. Okay. I guess I'll let you slide on that one. I'm a cat person. But
Of course you are. Even though you
of
have a
course I
dog,
am.
you have a
I'm
dog behind you.
unpredictable and I'm salty, and I'm always going crazy. So it's totally fine. Yeah. And well, my nails click, so maybe that would just annoy you anyway.
I mean, there was a
um,
reason that I stayed away from you at Metro. So,
hey, that's mostly because they had me running. Anyway, we're
uh-huh.
digressing. Yeah. Uh-huh. So, um, what is which you kind of hinted to this earlier about the whys behind things, but what is your why? So what I'm really asking, what is the force or behind you doing the work that you do? What makes you get up and want to do it? What is your why?
Before COVID, it was truly because of just being the voice for the people that are voiceless. Um,
Love it.
just the, like dogs, cats, whatever you want to call them, any exotics, everything, horses, cows. They have they have a voice. You just need to know how to kind of read it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that was my main reason prior to COVID. Now, COVID hitting has hit the industry extremely hard in so many different ways. And the biggest way that I have seen is just straight fatiguing everyone. And I think my why right now is to show people that you can't let COVID beat you down because somebody has to be here. Somebody has to be there for these patients and these clients and everything. Like there has to be somebody, and we can't let that beat us. And I think my why is to be able to show everyone that yeah, I'm doing nursing stuff on the floor. I'm doing managerial stuff in the office. I'm dealing with those trouble clients that are getting down on you and things like that, and I'm taking that off of you. But I'm still here. I'm still here. I
Mhm.
come in every single day, and I come in to make sure that I can lessen the load on you. Because if I leave, or if you leave, the load on me becomes increasingly more. So
Right.
the team setting is more important now more than ever.
Absolutely. And I think that goes right along with what your why was before. You're not
Mhm.
just the voice for the voiceless, you're the presence and the strength. And like that team mentality is huge. Every team needs a leader and you're leading by example. That's incredible. So kudos to you for there.
Trying.
Yeah, I mean we all are, right?
Yeah.
So I mean the fact that you're in tune with what your why is and you're living it every day is really the most important thing. So if you could have a conversation with a younger version of yourself, what words of advice would you give you? Does that make sense?
Um. Yeah. No, it makes total sense. It's actually something that I heard while I was at Penn Vet.
Mm,
And somebody said Q-tip. I didn't know what it meant, but apparently it means quit taking it personally.
I didn't know what that meant either. I
Yeah.
love that.
So
Quit taking it personally.
that's what I would tell myself because I'm a big person of like somebody says something, somebody's acting one way or whatever. It's because of me. I did it. I caused it.
Mm,
Um, but 9 times out of 10, that's not the case, and we're misconstruing the tone or what the message truly is meant to be. So I would just tell myself that nothing's personal in life. It's just keep chugging along, and taking it personally is just going to make it worse.
Love that. Q-tip. All right, that's got to be a new slogan somewhere. Make a shirt. Fantastic. All right. So, kind of going into the more of the current setting, but it's always been present, and thinking about inclusivity and support in the veterinary setting. What does that look like to you? And how can we be a part of making that change occur in all of our individual practices or work settings? And then take it bigger. How can we make it statewide? How can we make it nationwide, right? We've been going through this, the past 4 years in particular have been slightly divisive, but all of these issues have always been there. But now they're really, we're all paying attention more than we have before, which is sad because we always should have been. But how do you think we can make that inclusivity and supportiveness happen? What does that look like for you?
Do you mean as like an entirety, like at the hospital, like what to make sure that
Yeah, so
all
in the
like
clinical setting, yeah, so from a managerial standpoint, how would you go about making that happen? And is there a way that you see that can go in the larger scale?
I think being in the that's hard. That so being
I
in
know. I'm
yeah,
sorry.
being being in all the positions that I've been in, and now moving into a managerial sense, I feel that clients aside and just like pure hospital team, I would say that managers and practice owners and inventory managers, everybody that's more towards the top and in the background of things, um, would need to be open minded with what the nurses or the vet assistants or the receptionists come to them with. Um,
Mm,
just because I feel like I've seen a lot of a receptionist saying this needs to change, or they need this to be more efficient, or a nurse saying that to improve patient care, we need to do this. I feel like there's always a rebuttal from that manager or from
mm.
that higher up person, that administrative person, of, well, are you doing something wrong? Did you do this? Did you do that? Like it, at the end of the day, if you're on the floor and you're watching it happen, that won't be a question. That's coming from in my mind, that's coming from a person that's not on the floor and doesn't believe what the person that is in the middle of everything and in the middle of the chaos is going through. So I think at the end of the day, it's just more so the higher ups and the administrative process having more trust in the people that are coming to them with the problems that they have. Now, there's always going to be those situations that need to be like talked about. Like if it's something like they're
Right.
asking for something that's like $10,000, $20,000, like then of course like you need to
Yeah, that's
have
no big
have a
deal.
conversation.
Right.
But when it comes to like little minute things, then it's just, if it's going to help the process of a day-to-day basis, if it's going to help the mentality and the vibe of the hospital, then it shouldn't be a question. It should be like, okay, let me see how quickly I can get that.
Yeah, and have that conversation together and try to find a solution. I think that
Right.
is so important to have that, like those authentic conversations. So that kind of, going along those lines of listening and actually being a part of the experience of the practice, like getting out there, getting dirty with your team.
Right.
What has your experience been like that? Have like from the other side of things, when in different aspects, not just the clinical stuff and the day-to-day things, but personal interactions and discriminatory issues and things like that. Have you experienced that yourself? And what can, the veterinary profession, what do we need to do?
Yeah, I mean, a couple of times I've dealt with that. Not always in like a direct sense, but in
Mm.
no matter what, wherever I go. Actually, that's a lie. Metro has been a little bit more diverse than what I'm used to. But before Metro, it was anytime I went to a hospital, I would be the one of two, um, either male or colored males in the
Mm.
facility, and that's not anybody's fault or anything like that. And it's just one of those things that I notice. Um, but that goes along with the fact that then the clients don't see us as much either. Um,
Right.
and then one of the first things that ever happened to me was, um, I was cleaning up in the lobby. Obviously, this was pre-COVID, and uh, I was just cleaning up just because it was a slower day.
You
And
were there.
yeah, I was there. I think I took a dog out, and then I was walking back in, and I saw something that needed to be cleaned up, so I did it. And there were clients that went up to the receptionist and told them that they think it's great that we have such great cleaning help.
Oh,
And they just thought that I was the cleaning help is what they thought I was. And then the receptionists have to kind of like let them know that, oh well, no, he's actually the nurse or the lead nurse or what have you, whatever I was at that point. Um,
mhm.
and and then it kind of puts them in an awkward position, you know. And after that, I think the other time that I had a situation that made me feel, I don't know that it was necessarily discrimination, or if it was just me reading into it too much, but I went out for a triage, and this dog was in bad shape. It was
Yeah.
not doing good. It was pretty much laterally recumbent. It wasn't breathing right. It was not doing too hot.
Oh,
But I was the first one that got up there, and the person asked if they could have somebody different, if they could have a different nurse. I don't know what it was about. If it was like the way I like ran out, if I scared them or whatever, whatever it was. Um,
regardless, it shouldn't have happened.
right. But it ended up, I kind of switched things around on that person, because then an assistant went up and then got them into the room, and then I went back in, and at that point I had my stethoscope with me. I triaged it. I literally put a catheter in front of the client. I did all those things, and then at the end of the time, that at the end of the visit, the client actually apologized to me, and said that he didn't realize that I was capable of doing everything that I did. I was like, it's okay. I don't know where it came from. I don't understand where it came from. I never asked. I didn't dive deep into it, and
Sure.
I appreciated the fact that they kind of changed their tune.
Absolutely. It's just for me, I don't think that should ever enter someone's mind. It's just
No,
you're coming up there in scrubs, you're clearly there confidently doing what you need to do. Don't question it. Just you're
right,
here for help and that's what you need to do. And that's part of, what I want to see change in our
right,
in our industry is that,
right,
you're not the exception. You're part of the norm.
right,
And
exactly,
especially given your experience and your knowledge, it's not it doesn't take very long to figure out that you know just even a little bit more than a little bit about what's going on.
right,
So I think that, I appreciate how you handled that though. I mean, because you're always very professional and it sounds and but I just for me, I'd like to see it change that you don't have to put yourself in that situation. So I
right,
think it's a conversation that we're going to have to keep having and figure out what these solutions are. Because I know I've been in this field for so long. And it was always, those that were the guys in the practice were doctors or other, physical roles. They were not nurses.
right,
We had a few assistants, and it was just, I see that in human medicine too. But, I was just recently in the ER, and the best nurse there was Marty. He was fantastic. He was funny. He kept me not focused on the bad things and was super skilled and on top of things. And I was just so glad that I didn't have to go to the vet hospital for someone to get my catheter in. I was like, thank you. You can actually hit my veins. Good job. So I would love to see that situation just be like, oh, great, I'm here. There's a competent nurse that's here. End of conversation. You don't
right,
care what gender, you don't care what color, we don't care. We're just grateful that we have a skilled person in front of us.
right, exactly. And
And
that's the biggest thing is when you're walking in as a client, when your patient or your pet, your fur baby is ill or
right.
on death's door, it shouldn't be a question of like when you walk in, like who is this person, what are they doing. It should be, how quickly did they get to you, how can you help, what do you need to do to be able to give them the information that they need to be able to better help your pet. Not
Yes.
what is this person's background, how long has this person been here, what's the color of their skin, are they male or female? None of these questions should be arising in a medical setting, or honestly in any setting if we get
Right.
on like the whole realm of things. But it should not be something that pops up in somebody's head. It should just be like, oh, thank thankfully somebody is here at my time of need.
Exactly. Absolutely. And I think so. The next conversation, not in this one, because we want to, keep talking about you. But definitely, but I think that's the next step too, is figuring out how we can change this conversation and how can we, make it more of an integrative process for our teams, for our CSRs and our tax assistants on the veterinary side about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And then that will project outwards into our clientele. Like, this
Yeah,
is what we expect, and this is what we expect in return. So I
correct.
think that's the next step of that conversation for sure.
Yeah, I agree.
So, client interactions, we love them. We all
They're the
have our
great.
favorites, right? I mean, honestly, it's funny, right? We get into this business because we love animals, and I don't want to deal with people. Um, they can't drive, so you're gonna have to talk to people at some point, right?
Right. Somebody's holding the leash.
Well, maybe not if it's a retractable one. But so can you share a discouraging client interaction and how you handled it
Gosh.
or turned it around? Were you able to like take that, like diffuse a situation, or was there one that was just like blew your mind, like I can't believe this is happening right now?
Oh, that's difficult.
I know you did work ER, and I have those stories where people showed up without pants. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know that I don't think I've had like a disgruntled client at
a great
the
word, by
ER.
the way. We need to use that more often. Continue.
Yeah, but I've had many people that were like at Douglasville that were, especially nowadays, are expecting things in a timely fashion,
Mm,
and don't understand why they're waiting for like an hour. Um, and I had a client that was extremely rude to one of the nurses and was cursing at her just based on the fact that she was waiting for 1 hour. um and I like, she had children in her car, so like I understand like when you have kids it like makes like the wait like a lot worse, and you're worried about the kids, and the kids are kind of like getting rambunctious and things like that. um but it was one of those conversations that I all I had to do was inform her of the if she went to a human hospital, a human emergency hospital,
hmm.
her wait would not be 1 hour, it would be more like 3 to 5.
Yep.
And they would not would I asked her, would you have this same conversation, be screaming at the people that are trying to help your children if you were at the emergency room?
Ooh.
Because she had kids in the car. And I was like, this is the same situation. And I don't appreciate the fact that you're cursing at my fellow coworkers just because of something that is out of our hands. COVID is out of our hands, and the way that we are handling things are so that we can still be open for future clients other than her.
Absolutely.
And if we do not abide by the rules that we have in place, and we try to rush things and we try to expedite things, then that hinders safety.
Hmm.
And then next thing you know, we have a COVID outbreak and the hospital's down, and then potentially her fur baby is not going to be able to get the care that she needs, or she's going to have to drive to an emergency hospital and wait that 3 to 4 hours because emergency hospitals have been getting slammed.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's perfect. And it's sometimes all that it takes is to remind someone of their humanity and that the
Right,
people that they're dealing with are humans too.
right.
And that's what they have car seats and buckles for. Just strap the kids in, they'll be fine. And going back to the beginning when you're talking about being a camp counselor, I think that's a really smooth transition into veterinary medicine. Honestly, having had a puppy and small humans, they're not that much different.
They aren't
They
honestly.
aren't.
And it's funny that you say that because like I've had that conversation like so many times about like what made me go from like kids to pets, and like in a sense it's the same situation just in a different realm.
It's just, I mean, some kids are food motivated, some aren't. Oh look,
Right.
everyone's a Labrador. It's fantastic. So no, I think having those, again, reminding people of why they're there, why you're there, and what the situation is just kindness and respect. That's all it's
Right.
about. And
Right.
that's exactly what you showed that woman's like, look, I understand this is difficult, but understand it's difficult for us and we're here
Right.
for you. So let's
Right.
get this together.
And that's when the whole too changed for her. Like the moment that I kind of it was one of those things that she was really combative, and she was very like loud and very like talking fast,
Mm,
and I was just I tried to be as calm as I could, and I kept trying to let her know that I understand where she's coming from and things like that. I tried to stay extremely professional, and then just kind of, I think the moment that I brought a sense of, like you said, humanity into it, she kind of changed her tone and her speed, and she was like, you're not wrong. Like it's we're all people, we're all dealing with the same things, and then she kind of understood, and things went a little bit better after that.
good. See, the calm in the storm.
Right.
So then into your most challenging medical case.
Mm.
You got through it.
Uh,
I know there's so many, right?
Two come to mind.
Oh,
Uh,
let me geek out. Come on, tell me about it.
First one was I can't say that was my medical case, because it was a medical case that I kind of walked in on during my internship at Penn Vet,
Mm,
in the ICU. I believe it was a hip car, and then the way that things work at Penn Vet is if they go to surgery, anesthesia and surgery team takes care of it, and then if they're still critical, it goes to the ICU after the
mhm.
fact, and then ICU takes over from there. And that was where I had my most challenging, I would say, case. Because when I got there, this dog was hooked up to what they called like the tree of life. It
Oh,
had it had three IV poles in the cage with it. I don't even know how many fluid pumps and syringe pumps. I don't know how many CRIs. I like it. It was so long ago that I wouldn't be able to like remember how many. But this dog was on everything.
yeah.
It
I
was
mean, you
on.
said the tree of life. It's got to have branches at that point.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Like this thing was incredible. Um, and to be honest, I don't truly know if the patient made it, because after that was my last shift in ICU, and it was like my worst shift in ICU.
I
Um,
blocked it out. I don't want to remember.
yeah, but I just the only way that I made that through that was with the other nurses that were there.
Mm,
I never felt like they threw me to the wolves. I never felt like they abandoned me. There were countless other patients in there, and somehow they multitasked enough to be able to provide the care to every single one of those patients, and also to teach me and ensure that I wasn't too overwhelmed with that patient, because they made that patient my patient because of the fact that they wanted to be able to multitask with the other ones and then keep like eyes on this one because it was so critical.
yeah.
Uh, but yeah, I made it through there just because of them, just because of the other nurses.
I think you may have had something to do with it, but I love like everything we've been talking about so far tonight is really this weaving thread of teamwork
Yeah,
and making sure that everything and everyone is recognized and working together. And I love that. I think that
yeah.
is something that is sorely needed everywhere, but especially in our profession. So we're going to lighten it up just a little bit. If you could travel anywhere in the world, I mean, not now, clearly we can't because COVID, but anywhere in the world, where would you go and why?
Oof. So two-part answer for that again. I feel like I always have two-part answers.
Which
But in the beginning, it used to be. Am I lagging? Is this working?
a little, you're good now. We're all good.
Okay. Sorry. Okay. So in the beginning, it would have been Australia. That was like my die-hard place. Like I've always wanted to go there. It was ever since I was little. It was like that land down under just is unattainable, and it's very hard to
Feel like
get
there's
to.
a song playing in my ear right now. Yep, yep, yep.
But ever since I started dating my girlfriend Rachel, she has been in so many different places than I have. Um, and we have one place that we want to go to that we, well, not just one place, but any place that we really be able to see the northern lights. So
Oh,
I would have to say that, just like anywhere that I'd be able to just see those lights for at least one time, that would be my like end all like bucket list thing.
I absolutely agree with you. It's Mother Nature at her finest. You're like watching her
Right.
paint in front of your eyes.
Yeah.
Oh,
100%.
sure. Plus everything, and there's so many things in Australia that can kill you. So probably a safer
That's
choice.
another thing. I didn't want to mention that. I didn't want to seem scared or anything, but
No,
I
no,
like,
it's fine. I
yeah,
mean, they have a snake called the fear snake. Like, seriously? The northern lights are just the northern lights. Look at them. They're
right.
gorgeous.
They can't
No
hurt you.
death.
Yeah.
All right. Final words of wisdom for our veterinary community in Pennsylvania, about being open-minded and the importance both on a personal and professional level of support and inclusivity.
That goes back to the team effort of everything. I just do
Mhm.
not be afraid to ask for help. Do not be afraid to say you don't know what you're doing or you're not comfortable with anything. Don't be afraid to utilize your team. They're there for a reason. It's not a solo gig. You're not the only person at that practice. You are there with a whole bunch of other people for a reason. Don't ever try to do everything yourself. You're gonna get overwhelmed. You're gonna fatigue yourself. Use your people and seize the opportunities that present themselves to you, even if you're afraid. Because if you don't, somebody else is going to, and then you're gonna be in a position that you wish that you did it.
Oh, Danny, it's been a pleasure talking with you tonight. Thank you so much for your time and your really thoughtful and honest answers. Thank you.
Of course. Yeah, anytime.